Welcome back to another episode of the Love and Life podcast with.
CG.
Why you gotta be so difficult? All right, so today's episode we are going to talk about.
You said CG. I said CG, but who are you?
But you didn't even.
CG Gamble.
But I said welcome to the Love and Life podcast with the Gambles.
CG and
we're your host,
What's
Matthew
your
and
CG
Gamble. So today's episode, we are going to be talking about roles in marriage, which is going to be a pretty interesting topic given that, we live in the 21st century and roles in marriage look completely different like what they've looked like in the past, I would say. So what are your takes on roles in marriage?
I believe in roles, but I also think roles have changed. I think that each household should have roles, but it shouldn't be determined by other people or society or what individuals may think should happen in somebody else's home. So I think it just depends on the family.
Yep, I would definitely agree. I think that the definition of roles has changed significantly over time. And what used to be isn't necessarily anymore. I think the economy plays a factor into that, right? Especially when you have two working adults in a household, just because things are expensive these days. So I definitely think that plays a factor into it. But to your point, I also definitely believe that it is based solely upon what you and your significant other are discussing.
The other thing is it depends on your life stage too. So our roles have shifted back and forth
consistently, continually,
depending upon what's going on in our lives as well.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. So when we first married for the first 5 years, we had no children. And so our lives obviously looked very different without kids. And so I don't think then we had defined roles.
I think roles come with responsibilities. I think the more responsibility you have, the more opportunity there is to clarify roles. But I think the first 5 years, we didn't have the same type of responsibilities. So if I even go the first year, we were in an apartment. I was in school. Matthew was working.
And trying to do school.
But you hyper focused on work.
Yeah.
To keep us in a nice financial place. Excuse me, I feel like you hyper focused on work. And then so the roles look like I might have had more time to clean during that time. So maybe cleaner could be a role, or cooker could be a role. Matthew can cook. Matthew doesn't want to cook. He doesn't want to cook anymore. But he can cook very well. But I think I kind of fell into the role of being the cooker at that time.
Well, no, you started off as the cook. I mean, from the beginning of our relationship. When I was living in my apartment and she essentially moved in.
Not really. That's another story.
You did move in.
Don't shack up until you're married, okay?
We weren't doing anything.
No.
We wanted to, but we weren't.
But that's another story.
But
you added too many things to the pot.
But you were the cooker because when we first got married, mind you, I was 20. CG was 25. And you were in a grad internship. And I was working for like an assisted living company. And so there would be moments where I would come home, I was managing. I would come home during lunch and CG would be washing, she would be cooking, she would be cleaning in our 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. And then within time, probably within the year or so, that kind of shifted. I was still working, but I don't think at that point in time we had defined roles. We just did what needed to be done.
Yeah, and it wasn't much to be done.
It wasn't. Not in the apartment, definitely not.
Nah, it's a small space.
We're hardly here.
Yeah. And so realistically, I think as we shift, we became homeowners the next year. Becoming homeowners definitely did increase responsibilities, and it shifted roles. How do you feel like that impacted our marriage? Because we're thinking about it in marriage time.
Yeah. I don't think that it was much of an impact. I do remember attempting to get CG to come outside and do yard work with me, because I grew up with grandparents who took a lot of pride in their yards. And so we lived in a neighborhood where we had a lot of seasoned folks around us, and they had beautiful yards. And I knew, because of my upbringing and because of the people that we were around, I would have to keep up with these folks who didn't have jobs, who were retired, and who had time to actually do actual yard work. And I remember when CG came outside to do yard work with me, and she was stung
for the first time ever
by a wasp.
A black one.
And she has seldomly, in the last 15 years, come outside with me since then.
I was traumatized.
Yeah. So I would say, to answer your question, I veered off. I don't think even then, when we purchased our home, outside of like yard work or going outside to do stuff, that we had clear, definitive roles. And even after year 5, when we had our first son, I don't think there were also a lot of clearly defined roles. However, I did become a stay-at-home dad for almost a year. And do
you mind if we kind of, before we jump into that, I want to just kind of say something, because I'm the kind of person, I'm like trying to think about, why are we doing this? We know our roles in our home. We know what we do, what we don't do, and how to shift. So why are we doing this? Why are we communicating this to an audience? And our goal is to help married couples. I think one of the things that we just are not really discussing is that we're a team. So when it comes to roles, and we say like we didn't really have clear roles, it's because we came into our marriage as friends. And sometimes you treat your friend better than your spouse, or people have treated friends better than their spouse. So we came in wanting to assist the other in whatever they were doing. And so realistically, there didn't have to be roles, because it was like, oh, you have to get to your internship, what you're eating. Like we would just kind of think about those things. I remember I had the longest day, because when I was in my graduate program, I was also working on completing my master's. And I was out in Plainwell where my internship was. And I came back home and I was so tired. And I remember getting into the garage and I was like, Lord. And when I came in, Matthew had ran a bath. And I about cried, or wanted to cry, because I was just so tired. So pre-children, we just worked as a team. Who needed what? What's happening? What's going on with the day? But that also leads into communicating. Communicating expectations. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think the communication aspect of defining roles, or even just operating, like you said, as a team, is essential. Because I think oftentimes in marriages, people have preconceived notions about what the other person is doing or what it is that they should be doing, without having an actual conversation about identifying those opportunities and those strengths in a marriage. And I think that's important. I think oftentimes we as married individuals fail to lean into our strengths a little bit more, right? And so where one person may lack in an area, oftentimes there isn't communication about, well, let me go ahead and take on that particular task. And me and CG kind of joke about it here and there. We have for the last 15 years, where I grew up in a home where my mother, although she was not in the military, she was very militant when it came to cleanliness. And so I was the son who was cleaning the bathroom, and you know how you raising boys, you got to get behind the toilet and around the ring of the toilet and all that other extra stuff, and around on the floor and the walls. So I grew up knowing the importance of detail cleaning, right? And so CG, though she cleans, no, I'm not talking about. I ain't talking about your story about your childhood. I ain't gonna bust you. I'm gonna let you bust your own self out. See, she telling on herself. But when CJ and I got married, it wasn't a expectation that she needed to clean the way that I clean. Now we joke about it oftentimes, and about how CG isn't the cleaner, but obviously we make sure we have a clean house. But when it comes to detail cleaning, that's not her strong suit, because that's something that she didn't necessarily have to worry about growing up as a kid.
I did not have to worry about that. My focus in my home growing up was get good grades. And I did that very well. I met the expectations of what was called for in my home. In my home, it was, you do well in school. And because of that, I did not have to clean up.
CG's the youngest of two additional sisters. One who is 15 years older than her, and the other one who is 10 years older than her.
So I was the baby.
And so she was the spoiled one, as
blessed.
Her middle sister would say, and she was the baby, as your older sister would say, but your middle sister would say you was the spoiled one. And so they had to do all of the chores.
They did.
And so CG didn't come into the marriage being a deep cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that. You said you could.
I could cook. I could cook.
You could
I got
cook.
better.
You could
but
cook.
I could cook.
She had some specialties that I care not to have anymore. She wore me out with jambalaya, although everybody else loves her jambalaya. However, I'd rather not.
That's because I loved it so much, so we ate it over. But
we off topic.
We are. Let's get back to roles. So, because I am a teacher at heart, I just want to kind of go over a few things to get us back to where we are. First thing is, Matthew and I were teammates, so that meant we did not have to hone in on roles.
Yeah.
If you guys are having difficulty with who's doing what, it might be good for you guys to discuss roles and come up with some form of agreement. Yeah. And the other thing is that we had less responsibilities before we had kids, so there are roles that are more lax.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say one more thing about? So the word should. A lot of times we have expectations about what someone should do, and some of them are expressed and some of them are unexpressed.
Yeah. Things
that are expressed can be not just identified, but dealt with, managed. Things that are unexpressed, you can't deal with them because they're not expressed. They're not out in the open. And sometimes people have a preconceived notion of what someone should be doing. Mm-hmm. People should or should not be doing anything. The realization is people can, they may, they might be willing, but that has to be communicated. So one of the things I would highly encourage is not to assume that someone should be doing something, because they may not know that they need to do something, or it is a desire for you to have them do it.
Yeah. And the Bible teaches us that the roles in a marriage center on respect, love, and partnership. And so it's not just up to one individual to make sure that they're doing everything, right? There are going to be moments where I may be lacking per se, and there are moments where CG may be lacking. And there are moments when something might get done and when something might not get done. But, it's important to be able to know and understand, and like you said before, have that communication and addressing and identifying what roles you will each play in the marriage. For example, for us, CG oftentimes is spearheading the care for the kids. I play a pivotal role in my children's lives. I'm extremely active. Thank God that I have the ability to be able to be. However, she is the administrator when it comes to the kids and their care and their education. And I play not so much a bit of a backseat role, but I play more of an assistant role to some degree when it comes to their care and their education. And me as the head of the home, I play a pivotal role from a financial aspect of making sure that our bills are paid and that we're forward thinking in what it is that we hope to or desire to accomplish within our lives as our kids age. So we each play a significant role in our relationship. Why are you smiling?
I'm smiling because that's just how I am first. The second thing is when Matthew's talking about he's like the lead in the finance, which is completely true. But one of the things is one of the roles he has as the head of the house, and just how he thinks, that he's a vision guy. And I think there was a point in time where he probably was frustrated with me because he'll share his vision. I'm like, okay, but I literally can't see it. So he'll be like, okay, we can do this, this, and this, this. And I'm like, okay, because that's not my strong suit. And I am a person, I'm in my mind a lot. So even when he was sharing that, I was just thinking, because I just walk around like, do, 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 do. Like, I just walk around.
I said that video on TikTok when she'd be like, I'm in my soft girl era. Like,
yeah, it's like, if he handling it, I believe you gonna just handle it. I don't have any participation. It don't got nothing to do with me. But realistically, knowing your partner and knowing like, I'm looking at, okay, what needs to be done right now, what money needs to be done in a week, and I do think a lot about what's going on with the kids. Things like he saw a remodel through of our other unit and he just had a vision on what it looked like, and I'm like, I just believe you, but I couldn't see it. So just knowing your partner, but I think that takes time too. I don't feel like that's something we had just off the bat. It's something that we just kind of learned about each other.
I agree. Within 15 years, we've gone through a lot of transition. And I think with every season, that wave of roles and responsibilities, it changes, right? So now with me completing a graduate degree, just like you experienced 12 plus years ago with no kids, it looks a little bit different now with us having 2 kids, you running the business, we working full time and earning a degree, a graduate degree. It looks a little bit different now compared to what it used to look like.
So we probably should shift.
Yeah.
Let's shift.
Yeah.
All right. So now we have kids. We have 2 young kids. I own a business. I started in 2016. I own a group mental health practice with 2 additional clinicians outside of me. So I'm also seeing clients. That's what's going on with my wheelhouse. What's going on with yours?
Working full time in corporate and working on a master's degree in counseling. So in a practicum internship phase now, which causes me to be out of the house quite a bit in comparison to what it used to be. So we are in a phase to where I don't think that we're outwardly redefining roles. Like, we're not constantly talking about what do those roles look like. But we are learning to just slowly but surely shift to where it's not causing much impact on our home life. And we've had some conversations about what does that look like, even before I started practicum and internship.
Yeah, because now, like Matthew, and I really have to support him on this, and I'm okay with it. Like, in the evenings, I'm on deck. I'm cook, clean, kids, nighttime, all of that, because he's doing his practicum and internship. And so I think one of the things that we did do beforehand is we talk. I'm a counselor, and he's I can't call him a counselor until he gets his license, but he's basically a counselor. So we talk. And one of the things he shared was that he needs the following support. And I share also what I need. I am a person that I love space to myself where I do not have responsibilities. I don't have to think about what the kids need. I don't have to think about what my husband needs. I don't got to think about the house. I have to get out. And so even if it's tootling, as I say, outside the house, because right now we're so hyper focused through the week, I have to take time away. What do you need?
Yeah. I think for me, I just need a moment to breathe, you know? And so maybe we've talked about this before. Oftentimes, it's important for me to just step away. I don't have to go anywhere. I hate having to go out and get in and out the car. I mean, we live in a location where it's all 4 seasons. So, you know, I don't want to get in and out the car. I don't want to get in the car. We live in a construction city right now, all around our home. So it's just too much work for me. So give me an opportunity to just go into my room, close my door, and scroll or watch YouTube. I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine. Because it gives me an opportunity not to have to think about anything. And it's thoughtless work, right? Especially when I'm working full time, meeting with clients through internship and having to process that. So I don't want to do anything. But I think, you know, in a sense of roles in our marriage, we've gotten to the point after this many years that we know when there's transition coming, we have to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so that's the one thing I really want to encourage couples to do, is to make sure that you are having a very honest and transparent conversation about what roles do you all play in the marriage, and knowing that it's about teamwork, right? It is about teamwork. So where you may lack, your partner may be strengthened in that area. And knowing and understand that at times it's going to ebb and flow. It's never linear. It's always going to be doing this constantly, right? Because as you all transition from year to year, from phase to phase in your marriage, especially when you introduce children, it's never going to be consistent. It's never going to be the same. And we're living proof of that after this many years of being married, that it's never looked the same. Year after year, it changes.
And one thing that I highlight with that is, while it's never consistent, doesn't mean that it's not peaceful.
That's right. Yeah.
And so one of the things that I think Matthew and I really try to, I don't even know if it's spoken, but I think I'm just speaking now, is like have a home of peace.
Yes, Lord.
Because we want to be able to have a safe space that you can come home and just feel peace. And so that's important to us. And if we feel like right now it's not feeling peaceful, we're going to talk about it. What is going on? You know, or even with our children. Hold on. This is how we run the house.
Yep.
So realistically, peace is important to us. Now, if I'm focusing on roles, right? While I might be the primary cooker or grocery shopper, if I haven't grocery shopped in, you know, the lot of time that I usually do, Matthew will go in and add stuff to the grocery. And it's not like you haven't done it. It's more so, oh, this hasn't been done. Let me see how I can help.
Yep.
Or say, for instance, one of the things that I do is that I attempt to communicate on our, we have a to-do list online that we both share of things that need to be done, grocery items needed, this week's meal, boys' needs. So we have an online to-do list.
You can't tell CG's a systems girl.
I am.
We also have a family calendar as well.
We sure do.
That we share.
I think I might share that stuff though, like how to do that, because I think that's a pivotal part of that too.
Yeah.
It's like we have a way to communicate when we're not together.
Yep.
So I try to communicate this week's meals. And then if Matthew's done with his work, but I'm not done, he'll get started with it. So stuff like that is communication and roles. The roles do not have to look like what society says. Matter of fact, they probably won't. Do not assume that somebody has a certain role.
That's a big one. Yeah, leading with assumption. That's a really big one.
I like that.
Yeah. For me, I do the laundry. CG hasn't consistently done laundry in probably about the last year. And that's just because
we do it differently.
And when I see that there's a need, I'm separating, I'm washing, I'm folding. However, what has changed is that I don't put them away. I will fold up everybody's clothes, and then I'm usually out the door to internship, and by the time I get back home, they are put away. Yes. And the boys play a role in that, because we ain't putting up clothes for kids all day, every day. So they play a role in making sure that that's being done, so that way they can actually contribute to the household.
And it hasn't always been that way, but I want to communicate kind of how that transition. So, because the way that my mind is set up, I like systems or order. And so for me, the best way to go about it, so my day isn't just focused on laundry, is I would like to do a load a day. So you put in the load, you put it in the dryer, you're folding.
But then just go sit in the dryer. You ain't gonna go down there and go get them clothes out the dryer.
The last one ends up sitting.
And that's because we have 2 washers and 2 dryers. So
we do.
She ain't going down there to go get them clothes out like that.
But once a day, one load, and then you shift it over. Matthew wants to do everything all the whole day.
Yeah, who wants to be waiting days?
I don't want to do it.
And then you gotta then another load building up all over again.
So, but one thing that I highlight here to help others is that we did it differently.
Yeah.
He did not attempt, or maybe he didn't successfully attempt to change the way I do things, nor me. I'm not going to successfully change the way he does it.
Yeah.
And instead of it be like, this is the way that I want it done, it's, okay, well, I want it done this way. I'm going to incorporate that into what I do.
Yeah.
And then now I'm trying to figure out a way to assist that. Okay, you put everything out, you fold it, bam, I got it.
Yep. All in all, one thing that we definitely want to encourage couples to do is just to communicate. I think you said it best, is not to assume.
Not to assume.
And make sure that you are having that conversation as things change, making sure that you're not being afraid to have that conversation, and making sure that you all remember that you are on the same team.
On the same team.
Right? And you got to be able to get it done. My hope is that you have a desire to get it done.
Yeah.
And, just work together and addressing and communicating what those roles look like for you. And remembering above all that your teammates, you are on the same team. I think I just said that, but you're on the same team. And allow God to help navigate what does that look like for the both of you.
God is a coach.
Yeah.
You all are teammates. You're going for the same goal.
Yeah. That's good. Look at you with all these analogies. We love you. And thank you for tuning in to the Love and Life podcast with The Gambles.
CG.